Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to the first video in the series of the evidence. This video we want to talk today about is the importance of this discussion, the importance of discussing the belief. And I want you to imagine that after you've watched this video, you go to sleep in your usual room, in your normal bed, and that as you start to wake up, you notice there's something unusual. Instead of your cozy bed, you find yourself lying on sand. And as you adjust in the fog of sleep, you overcome this, you start to realize you're in the middle of a desert upon a sand dune. So you went from your own house, your own room, your own bed, to suddenly in the middle of a desert. You're going to naturally ask certain questions. What am I doing here? What is going to happen to me? Why am I here? These are natural questions that everybody would seek to answer if they're put in that type of situation. Now, imagine while you're in this desert, you start to get thirsty, so you end up looking for some water. Or you get hungry, so you look for food. You think to yourself you need a bit of shelter. So although you're pursuing these aspects, these needs in life or in this desert, the question of why you are there, how you got there, and what's going to happen to you will never leave you. You'll always be in that situation where you're thinking constantly. Now, again, going back to this desert, you find a group of people and you go up to them and you say, how did I get into this desert? And one person, he turns around and he says, well, you just popped into this desert. You weren't here and suddenly you became here. Now, would you accept that? Would that make sense to you? That you simply popped into the desert from when you were previously in your own house and your own room? It wouldn't make sense. Similarly, if somebody turned around and said, oh, a big bird scooped you up out of your bed, flew over and dropped you off here, you would naturally ask the question, where's your evidence? Yeah? Did it really happen? Do you have any proof for it? You're not just simply going to blindly imitate what they have said. And the analogy is clear. Life is like this. From nothing or from no conscious awareness, suddenly we find ourselves consciously aware, thinking to ourselves, how did we get here? And everybody knows, no matter who they are, whether they're religious or not, whether they believe in a creator or not, every single person knows that they are going to die. And so the natural question then is, what's going to happen to me after I die? And these two questions, how did I get here and what's going to happen to me afterwards, are the two most fundamental questions that will shape our viewpoint towards life, i.e. our purpose towards this life. And this purpose, understanding this, allows us also to understand and appreciate our moral outlook. How we see good, how we see bad will be determined how we view our purpose in life. And how we view our purpose in life is determined by answering the question, how did I get here and where am I going? And this question is not just for religious people, because the assumption is about purpose of life, it's a religious discussion. It's a debate and a discussion that maybe Christians and Hindus and Muslims might have. This question is a fundamental question because it's going to shape our moral outlook. For example, John Stuart Mill, who was born in 1806 and forms part of what the West calls the Enlightenment thinker, he expounded upon this idea called utilitarianism, which is this ethical theory that seeks to maximize benefit for the greatest number of people and minimize harm. And his ethical and moral outlook was a direct result because for Mill he answered the question about the purpose of life, which for himself, he believed that there was no relationship between Christianity and the moral dictates from revelation or whatever religious scripture to the role that life has, how it's governed. So he's separated. In fact, many people, they say that Mill himself, he was an atheist, so he didn't believe in God, and he attacked and criticized Christianity quite a lot. Similarly, you have Rousseau, the French thinker from the 18th century. And he argued, before he argued his moral philosophy, his outlook on life, the first thing he argued was, whether a God exists or not. And what he said was that the belief in a creator is subjective. Some people have arguments for, some people have arguments against. It's a personal belief. And as such, personal beliefs cannot be the basis of determining morality of the individual and within society at large. So as you can see, the various Western thinkers of the 18th and 19th century developed their moral philosophy, which in turn developed from them their political economic outlook. So from their moral philosophy came this political and economic outlook. But all of this was predicated, built upon the question about what is our purpose in life. And that itself was predicated upon what comes before life and what comes after life, and its relationship to this life's affairs. Therefore, this question about purpose isn't just a question for religiously inclined people, but rather are questions that shape how each one of us acts in this life, and how we perceive not only individual actions, but societal actions at large. And as such, everyone, no matter who they are, has a belief system. We all have belief systems. Whether we call ourselves religious, or whether we call ourselves, irreligious, or claim we don't believe in God or whatever, we will have a belief system. Some of these beliefs, or for many people, these belief systems that they develop or are unconsciously adopted from the society around them. So you have many people that turn around and they may use, terms like, we only live once, therefore live life to the maximum. Yeah, or live life to the max. Now that term, that concept comes implicitly by accepting there is no God, there is no afterlife. Therefore, our moral outlook is built around how do we maximize our life. Yeah. Similarly, you have other people. They say, well, I should be free to do whatever I want so long as I'm not harming other people. This is an argument that John Stuart Mill himself articulated 200 years earlier. And you see how that was a radical argument at that time. And yet now, because it's become accepted as a norm, a normal idea within today's Western liberal secular societies, that now people naturally make this statement: I should be free to do whatever I want so long as I'm not physically harming other people. It's a belief system, and again, that belief system has certain ideological connotations that is related to how we view our purpose in life. For a Muslim, the answer to the question of purpose of life will obviously naturally create a unique outlook, because for a Muslim, not only do we believe that a creator exists, but also we believe that the creator created us, our instincts, our needs, our need to perform actions. And we also believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment, meaning after this life, will judge our actions, how we performed our actions, how we satisfied our needs, how did we eat, how did we drink. So every single action, whether big or small, we will be held accountable for. So when we look at our actions, we weigh our actions according to this belief. Are we doing an action which the Creator is pleased with and has ordained for us? Or are we doing an action which displeases our Creator and we're going to be held accountable for? Which is different to the idea that we should be able to do whatever we want, so long as I'm not harming others. Or others who say, my actions are predicated on personal benefit or as much gratification as I possibly can. Rather, this person, he looks at his actions based upon how he worships his Creator, not just in his prayer and fasting, but he looks at even in the other aspects, what we would term as Muslims mu'amalat, or the societal transactions. So everything that he does, from his dress, to his eating, to his praying, to his relationships with people outside, to the society at large, all of this will be looked at within the paradigm, within the framework of this belief, of this Islamic belief. So if we answer this question that there is nothing before life, and if we answer the question that after this life we go to nothing, then like I said, this will create a different type of viewpoint on life. So you find that such a person will maybe seek to maximize his individual gratifications. But for a Muslim, as I mentioned before, we look at this separately. If then the understanding, asking this question, what is our purpose, is a natural question when we wake up into existence, and if this question has such a profound impact on how we perform actions, changes our viewpoint on life, then this question is the most important question in life. What is our purpose? And what came before life? Does a creator exist? Is there life after this life? Indeed, it should be noted that one of the famous scholars of Islam, his name was Imam al-Juwayni, and he lived about 1,000 years ago. He was also known as Imam al-Haramain, Imam of the two holy sanctuaries, because he was Imam of both Mecca and Medina at that time. And he was also known as the teacher of Imam al-Ghazali, the famous scholar of Islam. He stated in his book Al-Irshad that the first obligation placed upon a Muslim is to establish the foundations of their belief. And he deduced this ruling. So he said the first obligation placed upon a Muslim, most of the time when we think about the first obligation placed upon a Muslim, we're thinking about prayer, salah, the pillars of Islam. But he said the first obligation placed upon a Muslim is to establish the foundations of their belief, meaning establish the rational justifications for their belief. And he deduced this from Surah Muhammad, chapter 47, verse 19, where in translation it says, "So know that there is none worthy of worship except Allah." In the Arabic it says, "Fa'alam annahu la ilaha illallah." The verb is used for ilm. So it's fa'alam, to seek ilm, to seek knowledge. And the term ilm, as explained by Imam Juwayni, means knowledge with certainty. And he then goes on to explain that the only way we can determine certainty through and establish therefore ilm, in that there is none worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to approach this question through the use of our mind. I think now this leads us to the next video. How should we approach this question? And that is to say, what methodology should we use?